All right, good afternoon, you 7th grade accelerated class. Now we fully have been going ahead and graphing inequalities in the class. And we're really going to get in depth on it tomorrow when we start discussing it more with the notes that we glued inside of your notebooks, or we're going to glue inside of your notebook, I mean. This is a distributive property inequality, and we've already studied the distributive property, and we're going to use this to multiply -3 times -5m. Now we're going to multiply the -3, and we're going to multiply this by the +2. This is going to go ahead and give us a total quantity of 15m minus 6 is going to be less than or equal to 24. When we go ahead and add 6 here, and we balance the inequality, this is going to go ahead and give us 15m has to be less than or equal to 30. Well, we already know that m has to be less than or equal to 2. So the way we're going to go ahead and we're going to graph this is we're going to put a solid circle. And we're going to put this solid circle on top of the number 2. Now the reason why this is going to be a solid circle right here is we want everyone to know if m is less than or equal to 2, this inequality will be true. And we want to prove this to people. See, we want people to know if we take m and we substitute in this value of 2 here, this is going to be -5 times 2. That's going to be a quantity of -10. And -10 plus 2, this is going to go ahead and give us -8. If we multiply this by this -3 right here, we're going to go ahead and get -3 times -8, which is 24. And 24 right here is what we get. And this is at least equal to 24. So we want everyone to know that m could at least be equal to 2. But it also could be anything less than 2. So it could be 1 or 0 or -1. And we're going to shade in all of these numbers here. Well, what happens if we have another inequality? What if we have an inequality that maybe says negative a number divided by 2? If you add 1 to it, it has to be greater than, and let's say, for example, let's say that this number here has to be 5. Well, we could probably figure this out in our head, but if we go ahead and we subtract 1 and balance the inequality, this is what we're going to get. This is going to cancel away to 0, and then what we're going to write down now is we're going to put -x divided by 2 still has to be greater than 4. Well, see, here's this very special rule. Whenever we have this -x, and this is really a coefficient of -1x, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by -2 over 1. This is called the reciprocal. When we balance the inequality and we multiply by -2 over 1, there's a very special rule that happens to this inequality. This inequality is actually going to turn the other direction. And some of you guys are like, well, what do you mean this inequality turns the other direction? Here's what I mean. This right here, if you multiply -2 over 1 by -1/2, you're just going to get x. See, because -2 times -1/2 gives you 1. This inequality actually turns the other direction. And of course, 4 times -2 over 1 is going to give you -8. This inequality switches the other direction. But I want to show you why it switches the other direction. It switches the other direction because what ends up happening here is if you have -x divided by 2 plus 1, we have to think about what numbers are less than -8. On a number line, the numbers that are less than -8, if we go out to -8 here or +8 here, the numbers that are less than -8 are -9 or -10. You see, if we take this and we put in this -10 here, a -10 actually is going to be equal to 10. And 10 right here, if we divide it by 2 and add 1, actually equals 5 plus 1. which is equal to 6. See, this initial inequality said that this was greater than 5. Isn't 6 greater than 5? So that's how we know that this inequality here, what ends up happening is that it ends up turning the other direction. This inequality said that this left side had to be greater than 5. And the only way that that's going to happen is if this inequality turned the other direction, and now x has to be smaller than -8. And we picked this number here, -10. And if x is equal to -10, a negative 10 is 10, and positive 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 5 plus 1 is 6. Now, we can definitely know for a fact 6 really is greater than 5. Well, hopefully later on in class we'll be talking about this more, and you guys can raise your hands and we can go ahead and talk about this. Take care for right now.